while you were doing Katy Lied, you had problems with a noise rejection problem.
Oh, the DBXs.
Yeah, and I was wondering if you could tell us what happened.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with the difference between Dolby and DBX. Dolby has a threshold where it does its companding on 4 bands below this threshold and doesn't do anything to the signal above the threshold. In analog tape, we were just talking about the saturation and the degradation of the signal over time. That's all going to happen on the high level signals. So with a Dolby encoded tape, you hit your snare drum hard or the piano's played loud or whatever, those signals degrade a little bit. Doesn't affect what the Dolby does. It doesn't do anything until the signal gets down to the threshold. With DBX, they have a ramp that works over the whole dynamic range of the signal. And with any companding process, what you get out depends on the stability of the signal in the middle of that companding process. So you compress the signal going in. If nothing happens to it, you expand it coming out. It's perfect. It's great. It pushes down all the noise floor, and everything sounds great. If something happens to the tape, or if the curves change or anything in between, then what you play back isn't going to be what you put on there. So it was right when DBX first came out, and ABC got them, and we decided, well, we're going to run through this project. This will be great. Cruise through it in a couple of months. There won't be that much degradation. It'll work out just fine. So we used the DBXs because it actually sounded a little bit better than the Dolbys did. When we got done with the recording and then we did the mixing, everything was fine. We went in the next day to listen to the final mixes. I mean, this is after 2 weeks of mixing or whatever it was. And the mixes didn't play back anymore. Well, what's going on? So we started checking around, and it turned out that there was an RF problem in the DBXs, which changed their encode and decode curves. So it happened to be, there was something wrong in the studio. It's one of those things where 1,000 variables came together and something was wrong, right? There was a radio station a couple of miles away that had been on the air, an AM radio station, which no longer was on the air. Plus there was a grounding problem. So these two things together changed these curves. Now the curves were back to where they were supposed to be originally. The mixes wouldn't play back right. Also the 24 tracks weren't playing back exactly right? So we were in big mess. So we flew here to Boston in the middle of the night, went over to DBX, and they opened up their doors at 3 o'clock in the morning. We went in there and they built a bunch of DBXs that had wings on them, with every parameter adjustable in the DBX on the outside. So we're playing our mixes and trying to get them play back. And one of the guys that designed them sat there and said, you know, I'm not exactly sure exactly how these work. So I don't know how to get the curve back to the way you had it. You know, I think, well, great, thanks. So we had to go back to LA and remix the whole album because there was no way to get it going again. And during the remixing, there were things like the brand new Bosendorfer that they bought. If you listen to it on Your Gold Teeth 2, you can hear the Bosendorfer, after he hits the chord, gets louder, which I've never heard a real piano do that. Usually it's supposed to get softer from then on, right? So they're just little things like that that we tried to minimize when we were mixing, but it just never ended up as good as what it was on the first mixes. So I still have those original mixes, so if I ever run across any DBXs that are broken like that, I'll sure play it back and make a F1 copy real quick. Yes?